So Andy Burnham has been blocked from standing as an MP in the Gorton and Denton by-election in Manchester. Now that's really set the dogs barking within Parliament there, with the Labour's National Executive Committee saying, no, you can't stand. So let's have a listen here to the interview with Shabana Mahmood that Trevor Phillips carried out earlier on today.
Home Secretary, you're chair of the Labour Party's National Executive Committee. Will Andy Burnham be allowed to compete for the Labour nomination in Gorton and Denton?
Well, look, I think Andy's a fantastic mayor for Greater Manchester, and I really appreciated the letter that he wrote to myself and the rest of the National Executive yesterday. Thought he made his case in a very fair-minded and decent way. That is now a decision for the National Executive Committee. The officers will meet later on today. I am the chair of that committee, and I think it's my job to be an impartial chair. I won't want to say anything that gets ahead of that discussion later on today. It's not my job as the chair to make comments and, potentially leave myself open to the accusation that I'm trying to sway the debate in one direction or the other. I think that.
Shabana Mahmood was asked by Trevor Phillips whether she would block Andy Burnham becoming a candidate for the MP to represent Denton and Gorton. Now, she was really non-committal here. She just kept saying that, Andy was a great chap, he put a wonderful letter in, and the rest of the blah blah political stuff that you would get. But let's carry on and see what else she has to say.
Be completely inappropriate. I play these things with a straight bat. We have the meeting later on today, and that's where the decision will be made.
Would one of the options available to that committee, before it considers what Mr Burnham wants, the question of whether there should be an all-female shortlist or an all-minority shortlist?
Well, the party sometimes has all-women shortlists. Of course, you can't, by law, have all ethnic minority shortlists, so there's a legal position there. But that's not the decision for today. Later on today, we will be deciding one question, which is Andy, as a Metro Mayor at the moment, has sought permission to stand in the by-election. Under our Labour Party rules, anybody who is a mayor or a police and crime commissioner, if they want to run for a different political office, such as Member of Parliament, they do have to seek permission from the National Executive. That's what's going to happen later on today. And then we will have a shortlisting panel, so a panel of members of the NEC alongside regional and local party representatives will then convene to do a long list and then a short list for selection. And it'll be.
It's worth noting at this point that when Trevor Phillips asked about an all-female shortlist for the job of MP at Gorton and Denton, she never actually said no. She did, though, say that there was some legal things around that and the law doesn't allow you to do this, but she didn't say no. So let's carry on and see what else she has to say.
Party members that vote in that selection.
But, sorry, not to be boring about it, but so you could actually say to Andy Burnham, yeah, you have permission to run, but the NEC could decide to make it an all-female shortlist if it wanted to.
No, I think the first decision, we have to take these in stages. The first decision is he's asked for permission to run. That will be the decision that is made later on today. There will no doubt be a discussion about whether we want to have an all-woman shortlist at some point. But the first decision is a Metro Mayor has asked for permission. He's done exactly what the rules require him to do. We will now make that decision.
I'm just saying that.
No, I understand.
It could still be open to make this an all-woman shortlist. That's all I'm saying, asking.
Yes, that is a question that has not yet been decided, so that is very much still in the mix. I wouldn't want to get ahead of what the NEC might want to do in that respect.
When Trevor Phillips pushes her even further, she finally half admits that it may be an all-female cast to stand against Andy Burnham. Carry on with the exchange, though.
But we don't do all ethnic minority shortlists because that would be against the law.
Would you personally like to see Andy Burnham back in the Commons?
Look, I genuinely think Andy is a fantastic politician. I worked closely with him before. We've discussed police reform together. We've discussed funding for Greater Manchester Police. I worked very closely with him in the response to the terrorist attack in Manchester at the Heaton Park synagogue. I think he's an exceptional politician. And of course, I always think we should have all of our best players making their contribution to the Labour government. He is a Metro Mayor at this point. The rules require him to seek permission. As I say, I think he's gone about this in the right way. I really appreciated the tone of the letter that he wrote yesterday. But I am an independent chair of that NEC, and the decision is yet to be made. And I will be giving all members of the NEC officers a chance.
Another pause here because Trevor Phillips asked Shabana Mahmood, would she like to see Andy Burnham back in the Commons? Now, again, non-committal answer. She didn't say no and she didn't say yes. She just went on to say how she worked extremely well with Andy. She thought he was a nice man and all the other embellishments that she's likely to stick around that. Anyway, to carry on with the exchange, let's see what more information that Shabana Mahmood will come up with or excuses she'll come up with to stop Andy Burnham standing as a MP at Gorton and Denton.
Chance to make their case.
I hear this response that from all the top Labour people that you want all the top talent in the team and all the rest of it. But when you're assembling a team, everybody's got to be in the right position. And the question, I think, about Andy Burnham is, what's the right position? I mean, let me put it another way. Are you worried that if Burnham gives up the mayoralty of Greater Manchester, you could be beaten by Reform in the election? I looked at the polls, and out of 22 of the 27 parliamentary constituencies in the Greater Manchester area, 22 of them are forecast right now to be Reform wins. So if Burnham moves, another candidate won't have his popular standing, his personal vote. So you could lose a mayoralty if he gives it up.
Just to add a little context around this here, Trevor Phillips said that if Andy Burnham stood as an MP, the mayoralty of Greater Manchester would then be open. And because Andy Burnham's popularity in that post at the minute would likely disappear, would there be a chance of Reform actually coming in and taking that mayoralty? So let's hear what Shabana Mahmood has to say about that.
Well, look, I mean, I think these are all questions that are further downstream of the choice that has to be made today. My general position on these things, though, is that, you know, you can't go into any kind of election, by-election, a mayoralty, a local election, anything other than on the front foot. You know, we are a Labour government. We've made big changes to the country. We know that the country is still impatient for more change. We know ourselves that more has to change in the country. But we go in confident to that by-election. If there were other elections that are as a consequence of that by-election, then again, I would say that the Labour Party has a strong case to make to the people of Denton, first and foremost, and people across the country, whether that's in Manchester or elsewhere.
You say the Labour Party's got a strong case, but isn't it a damaging signal for Labour that Andy Burnham clearly thinks that he needs to be in the Commons as quickly as possible for the simple reason he thinks the Prime Minister could be gone sometime soon, and he needs to be there. He wants to compete.
Just pause it there because this is a good question from Trevor Phillips. He says to Shabana Mahmood that Andy Burnham wants to get in as quickly as possible because the chances of Keir Starmer being in office as the Prime Minister for very much longer, if Andy Burnham took up or got elected rather as the MP for Gorton and Denton, it slightly puts her on the spot, I think. But let's take a listen and see how she performs against that question.
Well, you know, I'm not the sort of person that indulges in these sorts of hypotheticals. Look, I think that we should take Andy at his word. He has said himself that the best person to be Prime Minister is Keir Starmer. He wrote a letter yesterday in which he said he's coming in if he's allowed, and if he were to win a by-election, his motivation is to make a contribution in Parliament. I think he made a case about wanting to take the lessons of Manchester and apply them in a much more national context and make the case as part of a Labour government. That's his position. I don't think that all of these, hypotheticals, machinations.
Yeah,
these are. I understand why people ask these questions, but to be honest, from my perspective, we as a government and as a party need to pull together. We have tough local elections coming up. We have a strong case to make to the country. I'm not scared of Reform or the Greens. I say we take the fight to them. It's a fight I believe we can win.
Yeah, but
asked here is, would Andy Burnham end up as the Prime Minister, basically? And Shabana Mahmood says, well, Andy says he's not going to do that. He's going to come in as an MP. He has no ambition to become the Prime Minister. Now, that's what he says, but is that what he'll do? Because there's a lot of people like him in the Labour Party, and Keir Starmer's ratings, even amongst his own people, is abysmal. And if Andy Burnham went for a leadership challenge, the chances are he'd get it. And secondly, Shabana Mahmood says here she's not frightened of reform. Well, they're miles ahead in the polls, so she may not be frightened, but she certainly should be cautious.
The problem is that this isn't necessarily in your hands. Andy Burnham comes back to the Commons. You know what's going to happen. There will be a continuing psychodrama about whether, he would be a better leader, whether there should be a contest, and so on. Don't you feel at least a bit that he has launched, if you like, a battle inside the Labour Party that you can't afford at the moment, given where you are in the polls, given, as you say, you've got an election coming? Would you have preferred if he had just said, no, I'm not, it's not my time?
Everyone has to make their own decisions. What I would say is I think everybody could do with less psychodrama, and my clear message to all of my colleagues, whoever they are, in Cabinet, elsewhere in the country, is we'd get to decide if we're going to indulge in a psychodrama. I don't want it.
But he's created it. He's created it. We're talking about it now.
But my message to everyone is the country was absolutely fed up to the back teeth of the Tories and all of their psychodrama and the constant vying
you're doing
for
it
the
again.
top position. But that's what I mean. I don't think the country will forgive us if we end up doing exactly the same as the Conservative Party.
I think we'll leave this exchange where it is now, because questions are being repeated and answers are being repeated, and you don't want to hear the same thing over and over again. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe to the channel.